what I'd heard was the midwives had been listening to the podcast series and they'd heard only a few episodes and they'd heard that it was twins. And so they gave her twice as much.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a 30-something with a 4-year-old stepdaughter and a newborn baby.
And I'm Daniel. I'm a 30-something and I've had kids for a while, ranging from toddlers to teens. Welcome back to another episode of Ramblings of Davmen. I'm Dan, and once again, and as always, hopefully, we are joined this week by Matthew.
Hi, yeah. Sorry about last week. We were very rudely interrupted, weren't we?
Can I just say, at this point, are we expecting any more interruptions? Because,
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
You know, for me, I've been doing loads of stuff this week, Christmas do, loads of boring stuff. What have you been up to? Anything interesting?
Just the usual, I guess. You know, Waters break live on a podcast episode, and then I went and had a baby.
So that's usual for you, okay?
Yeah, just a normal weekday. So our little daughter was born on Monday evening. She is called Robin Ethel Elizabeth Doyle. Ethel and Elizabeth are named after our nans. She was born at 17 minutes past 7 on Monday.
Wow.
Okay, so we knew as of Wednesday this week, so Wednesday the 1st of December, Becky was going to get induced. The reason they wanted to induce her is because after 40 weeks, the placenta starts to calcify, is the word, and then there's a risk to the baby. So the GPs decided it would be good to get her out as close to 40 weeks as possible. So the plan was Becky was going in on the 1st of December. However, as you heard, little Robin decided that wasn't good enough for her.
She has set your expectations that she works to her own timeline. And unlike you, she likes to be early.
She certainly does like to be prompt. Becky's waters broke at 8:20 on the Sunday of the 28th. Obviously, we were recording live. We had to cut it short. Apologies to everybody. And Dan, really heartfelt and thank you for the message that really touched us at the end of it. So thank you for that. That was a bit of a surprise when we listened over to it. So we were told to go to the hospital at 10 p.m. on the Sunday. We spent a couple of hours in the hospital just to do some little checks. Becky didn't even get an examination. They wanted to see how baby was, and they were like, come back tomorrow at 2. And that was kind of left it there.
I mean, I would have been freaking the fuck out at that point. Because when the waters have gone, surely you want her to be in a safe place. I've got a fuck ton of questions at this point.
Yeah.
At that point, at that very moment, when they turned around to her and said, right, okay, you go home and go and rest, what was going through your head?
I was nervous. I was excited. That was the second time we went to the hospital for a reduced movement scan. So we'd been quite used to just going to the hospital. We wasn't put on a ward. We were triaged. We had a plan in our minds that we were going to have the baby at some point this week anyway. We knew that was happening. We kind of had a little kind of idea of what we were going to do. So in our heads, we were just prepped a couple of days earlier. We expected the labour to take a couple of days. But on the Monday especially, I was working half a day. And from my lunch break onwards, I was pacing. Becky was like, get away from me. Because I was excited. You know, this is the start of one of the best weeks of my life, to put it bluntly. So there was some nerves, as you can imagine.
In that moment, who was calmer, you or Becky?
I think Becky was the calmer one. And I think when we went back in the hospital on the Monday, I fully had my rock hat on, as in I've got to be as calm as I can for Becky. I think that was needed from both. Yeah.
So talk me through that night then. So you'd been sent home. Did you get any fucking sleep? Was it like a Christmas Eve? Like you know Santa's coming?
It was, but also I had to prep because in my head I was getting up, going to work, finishing early, coming back home and catching up on work. That was my plan. COVID restrictions in the hospital meant that I could only stay for 3 hours at a time. So I was fully prepared to do 2 till 5 in the hospital and then come back and do some work. I think that's where we're going. No one expected what happened. We went to bed and we woke up like it was a normal day.
That's probably the calmest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I would have got like half an hour. I would have been wide awake, like thinking that the baby's just going to pop out in the middle of the night.
I think it's important to say that Becky wasn't contracting. So we weren't getting ourselves excited. We were quite calm because we still thought that we had a long road ahead of ourselves.
So you got up, you had some breakfast, you went to work.
Yeah.
Was it 2 o'clock you went back in? Did anything happen that morning?
So when we went on the Sunday, the midwives were like, well, we'll get you in, we'll examine you, we'll see how we're going. You may get put on a drip. This drip is a hormone to speed up the process effectively. So this drip is an artificial synthetic hormone that is released that when you are in active labour. So there was talk of Becky going on that. So we go to the ward, everything's sorted. They get put on the monitoring, the bands that go around your belly. Everything was okay. The midwife came, did the first examination, had a little bit of a check and said, oh, you're about 3 centimetres, 3.5 centimetres. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll set you to the delivery suite. You're close enough. So we went to the delivery suite at 3.5 centimetres. Considering that we were really pushing for a home birth, the people at the hospital, at Wigan Hospital, were so amazing. Our midwife was brilliant. So they got to the delivery suite and then they explained that because we were essentially an induction and what's classed as an at-risk birth, they will be on one-to-one at all time for a midwife. So our midwife, she still popped in and out, but she was in the delivery room for a considerable amount of time. So we probably had about an hour and a half of just settling in this room, getting to know things, and the contractions from Becky started ever so slowly, ever so mildly. Becky was calm throughout. She was like, this is manageable, this is tolerable. About 5:30, the midwife came in and she said, I'm going to put you on this hormone drip. And then, so this got on. This meant that she had to go and have a cannula in. And again, the baby had to be monitored because there is a risk that the baby can get a little bit distressed. About 5:30, 5:45, the doctor came round to do some rounds. And she was like, we'll see you in 4 hours and we'll see how you go. I'll come and check on you in 4 hours. And at this point, Becky's like, 4 hours? Wow.
So just for clarification here, when you're in the delivery suite, that 3-hour window doesn't count anymore.
Yes. So for when she's on the ward, 3 hours. So the plan is when she got admitted to the delivery suite, I could come back. They admittedly let us in a little bit early, probably, but still well within the 3-hour time limit, and I could stay there. So anyway, the doctor had come, and then they said, okay, things are progressing. Well, I'll check up you in another 4 hours and we'll see how you're doing from there. About 5:45, Becky was like, why didn't you go get something to eat? I'm like, I'm fine. When I'm nervous or when I'm panicking, I don't tend to eat at the best of times. So I was like, I was high off adrenaline, to be honest with you. But I was like, no, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Then the midwife was saying, this is the only chance you're going to get to eat. The cafe downstairs shuts at 7 and, it's getting late. There's nothing close around here. And I genuinely wasn't hungry, but I thought, well, maybe I should go and get something just, because it's going to be maybe early hours of the morning, maybe into tomorrow. So I did say to Becky that I was going to go get some water for her. And I went down to the hospital and I went outside and I was thinking, what's around here? Where could I go? I didn't really fancy the cafe. I thought I could drive to McDonald's, I guess. I could go get some chips or something. I decided against that. I thought, oh, no, I really don't fancy something. I'll just go to the vending machine. I'll get a couple of drinks and, I'll get a bag of crisps. And I think I got a Snickers bar and a Nutri-Grain bar, both of which I didn't eat. And I was like, that'll keep me going until whenever. I don't mind. I must have been gone about 10 minutes. And when I got back in, things started to change. Becky was like, oh, this is getting a bit more difficult now. And again, nobody had said to us what's happening. At the meantime, we're still thinking, all right, doctor's coming in 4 hours. And then 6:45, the midwife comes back in. Becky's getting quite distressed now. And the midwife are you okay, love? She's like, oh, say these contractions are really starting to hurt now. And she's like, okay, all right, where you looking at? So again, Becky and I are thinking, all right, this is the build-up, but we're still far away from this. So at this point, the midwife goes, do you want some pain relief? So the gas and air came out.
Because the midwife was there, did you get to try it?
No.
Oh.
But I tell you what was funny is that as Becky was having the gas and air, and through the first couple of sucks of the gas and air that she was having, when her contractions were disappearing, going away, she started laughing. She started full on giggling, laughing. And the midwife was like, honestly, we don't usually get this reaction in weeks like this. Then it came to about 7:00. Things really started to happen. Becky started, I wouldn't say panicking, but she really started to hurt now. The midwife asked her, can you feel a pain in your bottom? And she was like, yes. It got to 7:05, and the midwife, without saying anything, just turned over to me, had a look at me, and said, do you not mind just pressing that button there, please? As the emergency button. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
They're all calm as shit, aren't they? Just press that big red button there that says emergency. Now, don't panic, but just press it firmly, please, so everybody on the ward knows.
Exactly right. Anyway, another midwife came running through the door. So there's 2 midwives in. It's getting to about 7:05. Becky is now in an unimaginable amount of pain. She started to get really panicky because she doesn't know what's going on to her body. The midwives haven't really explained what's going on apart from 7:10. And she's like, right, start to push. And she did. And then, she got, you're going to get a minute's rest and a minute's break. And in that minute, you need to push. So she did. But then she was like, something's wrong. Something's not happening. The second midwife has got hold of her hand and just trying to explain to her. And then she's panicking and panicking and panicking even more. And she's like, something's happened. Something's happening to the baby. And then I had to gently remind her at 7:19 that the baby was on her chest because she had arrived very, very quickly. So the drip did its job. It worked immensely. It worked amazingly. And it worked within 2 hours for us. We were told with this drip is that you will get a natural contraction, but you will get what they call a synthetic contraction. So you will contract twice as more. And the second one is more painful because your body shouldn't be expecting that contraction, if that makes sense. So we thought because she was going through more pain, this is what was happening to her. Turns out that Robin just really wanted to get out.
I mean, what I'd heard was the midwives had been listening to the podcast series and they'd heard only a few episodes and they'd heard that it was twins. And so they gave her twice as much.
Well, maybe. Because what happened, they put her on 2 milligrams at first, but then they upped it to 4 milligrams. And Jesus, maybe that's why they thought, because, well, obviously it's twins, we're going to have to double it. And what we didn't expect was a baby, and that's exactly what we got. We went in at 2:00, and we had a baby before 7:30. So 5.5 hours, granted that a water's broke 24 hours earlier, but 5.5 hours, that's good going.
You can tell she's a northerner because she's out just in time for Coronation Street.
Yeah, she weren't picking around. She was like, "Come on, we're coming out now."
Well, it's Monday. It's a good episode. I want to see what Roy Cropper's doing.
Apparently, it is easier second time as well because your body knows what he's doing. So Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Fucking no.
Beck feels like she...
No. It's not happening. Stop going there. No. We've had this discussion. We've clarified. There are no more. That's it. I'm done. Whereas you're going to go again and, just giving you little tidbits of advice from yourself. That process is going to be far faster. So, this one was 5.5 hours. That other one, don't let her fucking sneeze.
I know, 22 minutes. That'll be yeah. Obviously, Becky's first experience was 3 days long.
I mean, in terms of factorising there, so 3 days down to 5.5 hours, she's not going to make it out the front door.
Yeah, we'll get the home birth by default this time, won't we?
Okay, so that sounds like quite not traumatic as such, but like a whirlwind experience, I suppose is the best way.
It kind of was a little bit traumatic as well. Becky kind of panicked because we had this plan of what was going on, and we kind of prepped at what we're going to expect in terms of we were expecting a 3, 4, 5 day stint in hospital, but that didn't happen. And because it was so quick and because it was so exacerbated, Becky kind of thought something was going wrong. And because she was panicking, she was a little bit traumatized. She always talks about how the first time Flossie ripped out a cannula because she kicked it out. Well, let me tell you, Becky ripped out her cannula this time. But again, it was purely because this was happening quick. And in fact, at one point, the midwife tried to calm her down, and they were really lovely, and just tried to say, look, you need to slow this down because the babies may come out too quick, and we just need to slow it down to protect you from ripping.
I mean, is that a thing? Like, I know that you're supposed to be in control, but can you slow a birth down?
Apparently, you can slow the pushing down, which is better for the baby once the head is coming through. After that, it's formulaic, and the midwife can help out a little bit, I guess. So it was, it was traumatic. And I'm not going to lie, there was a couple of minutes where I, started to palpitate a little bit, purely on the inside. But I think the most important thing is that I didn't. Apparently, I was a great birthing partner. That's come from Becky, to be honest with you. So I must have done something that was calming for her. And again, listening to your advice about being a rock. When we were reading our home birthing course that we went on, there was a thing about how light touch can help through contractions. So the home birth was talking about how the mother gets sit up and you gently, like with the back of your nails, rub the lower of your back and just slightly go up until the shoulder blades and then just arch your way through. Kind of like you're writing a big M, I guess, but in a weird way.
I mean, that's how you got in this place to begin with.
Yeah, Matthew Swayze came out. Obviously, I couldn't do that because the way that she was lied down, but I was doing that on her arm, and that kind of felt very relaxing, to the point where Becky was screaming at me and saying, rub my arm right now. So with one arm, I was rubbing her arm ever so gently while she was squeezing my hard as she could.
So when's your hand out of plaster?
2 weeks on Friday. But yeah, so like I say, Becky was a little bit out of it. I think the pain got to her so much where, like, it's almost like she didn't feel the baby coming out. She was like, I'm panicking, something's wrong. And that's when I had to say, babe, she's here. She's absolutely here. She didn't realise she was giving birth.
What are you panicking for? You've done it. Calm down.
That's kind of what I did as I was rubbing her head. I was like, she's here, babe. You've done all the hard work. And then after about 2 minutes, it started to click. So as she was dealing with baby and doing a bit of skin to skin and looking at her and just trying to get the bath, the midwife was pulling on the umbilical cord and had a tug of war with the placenta. There's no other way we can describe it. Yeah. There was no second birth. There was no twin. It was just the nurse was just thought, I'm doing this. And then I was given the chance to cut the cord, which I did. I mean, you could have warned me how tough that was. I think
there is one of the episodes. I did say it's like the sounds like cutting bacon, but it's the toughest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, that wasn't a pleasurable experience. I'm not gonna lie. It wouldn't help that they gave me some scissors from a Play-Doh set.
Here's some kid scissors. Go on.
Yeah, yeah. So I did that.
Well, I mean, while you've already, put all of our listeners off there and they're already throwing up the breakfast, did you eat the placenta?
We did not eat the placenta. The placenta got dissected on the table and then went into a biohazard bag for quick disposal. We did not eat the placenta. Although I've heard of people that put it in a smoothie. It's meant to be good for you, but that one was not for us, I'm afraid.
Okay. Who did the honours of the first nappy?
Becky had to stay in overnight for a couple of reasons. So because Becky stayed in overnight, that was her. You did warn me about the first couple of nappy changes. I remember changing my little sister when I was younger and doing nappy changes. Not what I remember. You are right. It's tar-like, isn't it? It's like
fucking gets everywhere. It's like they've been drinking Guinness in there.
But it takes forever to like wipe it off as well, doesn't it? But we are literally talking shit. But yeah, so that moment has passed now. But yes, it was Becky that did the first nappy. I got my hands dirty the second day when she got home, which was a delight.
So was she in overnight then, and then out the following day?
Yeah, she was in overnight. So because she was small, they did some checks on her. They measured her centiles, and she measured at 3.9. So she was 6.5 ounces, which
I'm going to bring you a pre-pod min there and just save you one. She's 6 pound 5 ounce, not 6.5 ounce.
Oh God, sorry. Yeah. So that doesn't highlight any concerns. Usually it's babies under £5.5. But when you measure the head and measure the waist and measure some other things as well, she was still running small, which she is. She's a small baby. So because she was running small, they decided that it was better just to do some more observations throughout the night and on doctor's rounds in the morning, and then they'll make a decision whether to discharge the following day, which she did. We already discussed that I'm only on the ward for allowed 3 hours, and then I was allowed in the delivery suite. So as they decided to admit Becky to the ward, they were like, okay, so we'll wheel you in now, say goodbye to Dad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You're not even allowed on the ward. Like, it's literally, you said bye in the corridor. It was like, oh, okay.
So yeah, that was brutal. Got kicked out at 11:45 or 11. About midnight, and then just went home. Like you said, was completely wired.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what to do with yourself, do you? This is the first time I ever stayed in the house without Becky. I mean, not that it's fine, but we've always been together. So it's the first time I've ever slept in this house on my own.
Was you a bit scared?
I was a little bit scared, yeah.
Yeah.
Onto the pillow.
It's okay.
But yeah. But yeah, you're wired, but also like shattered at the same time. I hadn't eaten for a long time, so I managed to, go and get myself an emergency McDonald's because I didn't know when the next time I was going to eat again. The different thing is I wasn't given a time. So usually you'd go at visiting times or something. We were told specifically that I wasn't allowed to come for visiting times. They said they would give me a time, and that's when I could come. So I was given the time of 1:00, but I didn't get that until about maybe 11:30 the following day. So Becky didn't have a good night's sleep. In fact, she didn't have any sleep. She got into the ward, and Becky isn't a great sleeper in terms of everything has to be dark. So she calls for a nurse, bearing in mind that she's just given birth. She's a bit out of it. She's a bit all over the place. She calls for the nurse. Nurse goes, everything all right? She's like, yeah, I'm just struggling to figure out how you turn off these lights. And she was like, oh, yeah, these lights don't close. These don't work. They broke. They only stay on at night. So obviously, hospital lights are the brightest thing in the world. So she had to deal with that right in her face. So she couldn't really sleep. She managed to get about 40 minutes. So she didn't sleep. I managed to get a few hours. But then we were kind of in limbo. Like, we didn't know what to expect. So yeah, just going back a minute, when the baby was born, Becky kind of got a wits about her, and she came round from all the drugs. The nurse came and said, as expected, there's a bit of a tear. we're going to let the doctor come in and have a check of you because I think we need to do some stitches. They said, we'll come back in a bit. It took them 2 hours to come back while Becky was bleeding out. And in fact, what actually happened was we called up after 2 hours. I mean, we were kind of in our own little, oh my God, this person's beautiful bubble. And like, we're parents, we did it. So we were having some like nice bonding time, I guess. But the baby wasn't weighed. The baby didn't have the checks. And Becky was still, lied down on the bed. It actually took us a couple of hours, and we had to ring through to the nurse's desk, and they came through and were just like, I've been sat here for 2 hours now. Can I just go for a walk? And they were like, no, you can't. Sorry, we'll get the doctor now. So they must have just completely forgot about us as she was bleeding out. The doctor came and, said that there was some stitches that needed to be done. I won't go into details, but the top and bottom had to have some structural work doing. I think that's the fairest way to put it.
Structural work.
Yeah, just a couple of stitches either sides. There was a chance, because where one of the tears were, that Becky was going to be catheterized, but luckily that didn't happen. What did happen after go is that she had a new experience in our lovely Rebecca.
Oh yeah. Because
the doctor had to, let's just say, when men get to a certain age, they have to have a routine little checkup, don't they, at the doctor's, where the doctor puts the gloves on and puts some little gel.
I know exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca had to have that procedure.
Yeah.
2 hours after giving birth, the doctor was like,
I'm going in.
Sorry, love, I need to check this.
Please tell me he said it in that exact way. Sorry, love. Right, it might sting, and I know you've just given birth, but I'm going in. I just need to make sure I haven't sewn you up and you can actually have a shit later.
I mean, he was a little bit more tactful than that, but not.
Did he say, I've done some structural work? And
yeah. I've got the scaffolding in. I just need to do it. I tell you what, the midwives, and correctly so, because she looks amazing, but the midwives actually complimented her and said, considering you've just given birth, you look absolutely amazing. And she was glowing. She looked beautiful. And Becky was like, are you joking me? But it's true. So maybe the doctor just had a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe he was just doing his job.
I think that's probably more likely. And we'll bring you a podman next week just to clarify that, yeah, he was just doing his job.
So that happened. So as she was getting stitched up, I tell you what was probably more painful than the actual birth. He did mention sharp sting. He did mention there is going to be a bit of a bee sting, and some local aesthetic was put in as the stitches go in, and with some gas and air as well. Guess what the doctor did?
Did he stitch up the wrong hole? No,
he stitched up the right hole, but did not wait for the anaesthetic to kick in first.
Oh wow!
So Becky writhed in pain for the first one, as you can imagine, after already having some damage that's gone on there, to have a needle shoved in there.
I mean, I would imagine it's quite a sensitive area naturally.
Exactly, yeah. The doctor was very apologetic.
As you would expect.
Yeah, exactly. Did some more anaesthetic, and then everything went on his way. At which time I was at the other side of the room dealing with Robin, and then helping, the midwife do their checks, checking that, Robin's got 10 fingers and 10 toes.
It's a funny feeling, isn't it? Like you're in this room with your partner and your newborn child, and there's some other bloke with his head firmly between your missus' legs sorting her out. And you're like, yeah, just get on with it, mate. I'm sorting the baby.
But not just firmly in between. So I don't know if this happened when Beck had Georgia, but they removed half the bed and put Becky in stirrups as well.
Yeah.
There was no,
Yeah, it turns into like a fucking transformer, innit?
Yeah. She was all to show. They put like a little modesty curtain up there, but I tried not to look, but there was a bit of a.
You had a glimpse. Did you go south when the head was popping out, or did you stay up north?
I stayed up north.
Probably for the best.
I didn't have a peek, but I had a little bit of a peek when the placenta was coming out. I didn't go around and have a look, but I saw a nurse doing a magic trick and doing tug of war coming out. So that was kind of hard to notice. But I
just imagine this nurse with the umbilical cord fully wrapped around the hand a few times, coiled round, proper pulling hard on it, feet up against it.
I mean, it's not too far from the truth. I mean, she had to stop. She had to say that, it's not ready this, I need a little break. I mean, that's something she actually said.
Oh, wow.
So after a couple of hours, Becky was sorted. She had a shower. We got the weight of the... I tell you something that I didn't realise, that I don't know if it's a new thing. They have to work out in pounds and ounces, don't they? It comes up in like... I don't even know what figures it was. I assume it's grams. I think she was 2,885 or something, and they had to convert that. I thought, well, why can't you just set the scales to, what's wrong with it?
Where we bought them from, European scales. If we'd used some of those American scales, then it would have just gone £6 5 ounce.
From the growth scans, they said that we're going to be maybe a pound out, but they were spot on. The last growth scan we had was Thursday before. You would have known that if the podcast went as it should, but it didn't. And she came out £6 5. So
turns out that the sonographer actually does know how to do a job.
She knows how to do a job. Yeah, she was pretty bang on, really.
At this point, I've still got 1,001 questions. But how's everyone sleeping?
Okay, so Monday Becky didn't sleep at all. Tuesday slightly better. I probably managed to get about 3 hours. Becky probably managed to get about 2.5 hours. The next day, I think Becky got about 45 minutes. I may have got like a couple of hours. Friday and Saturday, we've kind of got what you would expect to be a half decent sleep. I think I got a full night's sleep last night actually. About 6 hours, maybe about 5 hours the day before. Becky last night managed to get about 7 hours, but over 2 stints. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to have a little bit of a routine. Becky's breastfeeding, so it's a little bit more difficult in terms of me trying to help out because I don't have breasts.
But you've had the perfect training, a la Matthew Swayze. Let Becky sit in front of you and then just, rest that and hold baby at the same time.
Well,
I'm picturing it, and it probably looks better in my head than it does in practice.
Well, Robin can be the pottery wheel. That couldn't she? She could be the pottery that we've been molding.
Pardon the pun, but we're milking that little meme now.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So what we've tried to do is Becky's expressing, and with the idea that I will generally give her a feed at night time. A couple of reasons for it is that with bottles, Robin will get she will get a lot more milk. She has to, work a lot less to get more milk. That'll send her to sleep a little bit more. So that gives the chance for Becky to have a couple of hours sleep, probably from 10 till 12 or 10 till 1. So at least she's getting some chunks before she has to start and, doing the feeds. What I didn't know, and it's very common, is that babies, when they're first born, will feed throughout the night almost routinely. Especially breastfeeding babies is like they're always on the teat, for want of a better word. So that does limit what I can do at the night time, although I will help to change nappies. Or usually what happens, Becky will, when she's lagging a bit, she'll tell me to take over, or she'll say, just change Robin, or get up and have 10 minutes with her, just so she can have a bit of a rest. The first few days were difficult, and we kind of had to factor in sleep. So we decided that I'm better at staying up, in terms of I could go 24 hours without sleep relatively easy, but I'm not so good at waking up, going back to bed, waking up. I can either stay up, or I struggle with getting 2 hours sleep, then waking up for half an hour, 2 hours sleep, waking up for half an hour, where Becky's quite good at that.
Maybe kids aren't for you, man.
Well, this is something that I'm learning, but we decided that I'll stay up for as long as possible, giving Becky to have some sleep time. And where I get to 3 hours sleep at a time, I would generally have, a bit of a lie. I say a bit of a lie-in, but maybe up at 8:30, whereas she's been up at 6. No one prepares you. I think that's the one thing that I've learnt this week is no one can prepare you for that level of sleep deprivation.
I did mention that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you need training for. But the only thing you can do is try and steal those hours when baby's asleep. As soon as she goes for a nap, like as soon as she's fed and she goes down for a nap during the day, just get an hour or two here and there.
The 20-minute power nap on the couch is an absolute hero, isn't it? Like that's my new best friend now.
Last question for today, for this week as well, because I know this has been a long episode at this point. How's Flossie taken to Robin?
Do you know what? She's been absolutely amazing. So Flossie has spent this week at her dad's. But, her dad's been really nice about it. And firstly, I guess we expected to be in the hospital for 5 or 6 days anyway. So it was kind of pre-planned that Flossie's dad would have Flossie for the week anyway. But also this is kind of give us a chance to try and set out of a bit of routine. She has been to visit twice. So she's just come for a couple of hours and just got used to it. She's been absolutely brilliant, to be fair. She's so loving. She describes Robert. So we didn't tell her as well. She knew that she was going to have a baby, but because Florence doesn't understand days or anything. And also when Robin was born, she came to visit on Tuesday, but after school. But because we didn't want to get her excited, we didn't tell her on Tuesday. Becky's mum, Flossie's nan, came to the door and let us in. And Robin was crying at the time. And Florence came through the door and she was like, "What's that noise, Mummy?" And then she was on like a little chair on the floor, like a little swingy chair that we've got. And she was like, "It's a baby." And then she was smitten. She had a little hold of her and she was like, "Oh, she is so little and she is so cute." And giving her like a little kiss and a little rub of the hand and everything. She's been really, really good with her. I think the test is going to be this week when we have to pick up the school run as well. But we'll see. I'm sure she'll be fine. She's been nothing less than absolutely loving, to be honest with you. She's been really, really good. This week's going to be difficult. There is new guidance when it comes to driving now. I don't know if this was around when Georgia was around. In terms of car seats, for the first few weeks, no more than half an hour at a time in a car seat. So, and then 2 hours in total per day. So this is a bit of a ball ache for us because Flossie's school commute one way is 30 minutes car drive. So it either means that one of us will have to stay with a baby. But that makes sense that it's Becky because of the breastfeeding goes there. So that makes a sense. But then Flossie, is super committed to a mum and wants a mum to take her as well. So this is going to be the difficult thing in terms of who's going to take her to school because she doesn't want me at the best of times, which is fine. That's understandable. So this is going to be a bit of a challenging week, I think. When Flossie has been here, Becky's mum was here or Becky's sister was here, so they've been able to help out, generally holding the baby because that's what people do, don't they? They want to hold the baby for forever and ever. So we'll feed back on that question next week. We'll see how difficult it actually is. But, Flossie's been amazing. And all she's ever wanted, all that she's talked about for the last few weeks is about being a big sister. And she's been telling people at school and the teachers and, everybody.
Okay, well, I think that's a lot to decompress, I suppose.
Yeah. I felt like I've talked a lot this week. But
you have because you've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and I feel like we're only on part 1. Maybe we'll pick this back up at part 2 next week. But do you know what? It has been an absolutely amazing week. And the whole point of this podcast is coming on the journey of pregnancy. But now we can go on the journey of parenthood as well. And, this is it's an amazing experience. And let's keep at it and see where we go from here.
Yeah. Well, on behalf of me and the rest of the dads around the world, welcome to the Dad Club.
I am officially a dad man.
You're officially a dad man. I mean, You've only been doing this for fucking 20 weeks pretending.
Yeah.
But, everyone, thanks very much for listening. We'll pick this back up next week with some more ramblings. I hope you have a good week.
See you later.
See you later.